there is this entanglement web that most of the people get themselves into. Have you ever been in a situation whereby you bought something and you regret it? You'd be like, oh my goodness, I wish I knew I could have not bought that thing, but I could have rented it. For example, have you ever actually admired to have a very nice shoe and then you're like, wow, I'm gonna do the best that I can to buy that particular shoe. And obviously it's quite expensive. So you save yourself, you sacrifice a lot, you get the money, you show up to that dealer place that you like to get that shoe, you buy the shoe. And after wearing that shoe for 3, 4, 5 times, you're kind of, I'm bored. I just need another one and another one and another one. Then you're like, can I actually even rent maybe something before I even buy it or something? You see, this is that kind of an idea that most of the people do not understand, do not get it when it comes to what to buy, what to lease, and what to finance. If you can be able to, let me tell you one thing. Even if you have a problem with watching videos, my friend, if you have a problem with retention capacity, just watch this video, even if it's 10 times, just to get the message for you. When you understand in life, in the world of the finances, what to buy, what to lease, and what to finance, I am telling you, you will always be on the winning end as far as the money is concerned. And as always, by God's grace, here I am making another video. And this is Good Joseph speaking, in case you're watching me for the first time. And here we talk about finances and everything related to that. And I just want to say thank you. If you are a returning subscriber, go ahead and like the video. Make sure that you subscribe and leave me a comment on the comment section. And by the way, for the new visitors, let the wenyeji show you where we usually get our coffee. Let's get the business now. Here we are. Now, what to buy, lease, and finance. And I'm going to put these names independently. Let's start with the first one called buy. What do you buy? Okay? For example, let's say you are sick and God forbid. Do you buy a hospital or do you lease it? Do you buy the hospital or do you lease it? You don't start a hospital business because you are sick, you want to treat yourself, isn't it? So what you do, you show up to a hospital, you get treated, you pay the bills. You don't buy those ICU beds, you don't buy those wards, whatever. You don't lease then the nurses and what have you. You don't do all those things. So what you do, you lease it at that particular point, you get the payment. We aren't on lease, we are on buying. So what do you buy? What you buy is that what you need, not want. You need. One, you buy what you need, right? And that what can't wait. Obviously, that what you need can't wait, okay? You buy that what can't wait and what you need. Food. You buy food. I mean, there's no negotiation. I mean, even if you talk about investing, savings, and what have you, we cannot disregard food, isn't it? We cannot also disregard the clothing. I'm not talking about the Gucci and what Tiffany and Company. No, those are great companies and they're expensive. I'm just talking about like this whatever I think the polo that I'm wearing isn't. I didn't break my bank buying this. You get what I'm saying? Now, you buy what you need and it can't wait. Again, you buy that what can make you money. You buy to invest. For example, let's say there's nothing wrong buying a car before buying a land anyway. You know, we used to have this traditional way of look of things that it has to start with the land, house, then a car. No, you can even buy a car before even buying a house or even, why? Let's say you do in Uber. Let's say you do in Bolt. Let's say you do transport. Let's say you do logistics. You have your 5 million here or you have your 8 million. Would you even go buy yourself a home or would you buy a tipper? And you know this tipper with it within a year or two, you've actually bought yourself a home. You get what I'm saying? You buy that what can make you money. You buy that what gives value in return. I think that should be the best way of framing it. Gives you value in return. Gives you value in return. Or should I say, it has chances of bringing back money to your pocket. You go buy that thing that you know. For example, if you buy yourself a real estate investment, it gives you returns. So the chances of you recouping back the money that you had spent initially during the purchase process, then you get what I'm saying? You go purchase. See, the problem is that you buy that what you don't need. You buy that what you want. Does not bring any money into your pocket. So we buy the need that can't wait. We buy to invest. All right. By the way, there's nothing wrong with spending your money if you're spending it to invest. And also we buy that what bring value in return. That's what we buy. For example, when we buy, when we rent, when we pay the house rent, we are buying that place for the next 1 month. It is our place. Or do we rent? By the way, buying is not renting. Okay, we can just say virtually, we've not bought that particular apartment, but for that period of time of 30 days, it's quote unquote ours. Why? Even if we were to be chased away, our money will be returned back. You get what I'm saying? So we buy that what we do what? We can't wait, or that can't wait, and also we buy that what we are investing on. Buying yourself a parcel of land, buying yourself a car that you're doing investment for, not a liability, buying that specific thing, you buy the kids' education, maybe you're paying their school fees and what have you, you're buying the teacher's knowledge, you're buying the teacher's skills and time and energy. That is exactly what you're doing. That is what you buy. And the moment you get your money, first of all, know, am I gonna buy this or am I gonna? We got the next one, which is leasing. Or should I say lease? What do we lease? Now, this is where I want you to open all your ears to understand. There are some of the things that we ought to lease, but we buy. For example, let's say our home. I know it's an emotional issue, it's an emotive issue. Probably I'm gonna roast me on the comment section. There is nothing wrong. Sometimes it's good to unlearn for us to relearn. Let's say you're just a young individual at 25, 24. Some people even get, like, for example, I had a client at 22. The guy had $1 million. Oh my goodness, I didn't even have close to that amount of money when I was that age. Sometimes you have somebody who is at 29. You guy has a lot of money. And then you ask yourself, should I go the investment way or should I go the acquisition of the home way? Okay, I know in Africa, it's quite different from the Western countries. Totally buying a home in Western countries like the US and what have you, it's a liability. But here in Kenya, it's a liability, but it's not as extensive as it is in the US. But it is a liability, okay? Now, the point is, should you buy the house or should you lease the place? I know somebody who bought an apartment. Instead of living in that apartment, they rent it out, and then the returns that they get out of that apartment. For example, let's say you pay your house rent for, I'm going to use that example of that individual. The guy bought an apartment of 6.5 million. It was a one bedroom apartment. And that's, no, I think it was 2 or 1. I'm going to confirm that. Bear with me on that, guys. That apartment, he was renting it out at around 50,000. 55,000, yes, 55,000. And that apartment, 6.5 million, he's renting that apartment for 65,000. And then you know what he did? His apartment, he can actually go and live there. Obviously, that's what an average person will do, but he decided not to. Guess what happens now? There's a place where he lives, he pays a clean 30,000. And by the way, if you're paying a house rent in Kenya of 30,000, you're living kingly. True or not true? Kenyans can attest to that. If you're paying 30,000 Kenyan shillings for your rent in Kenya, you're living amazing. True, you're living in a very good place, very nice neighborhood. Security is there, water is there, accessibility to transport. Like, you almost have everything that you need in an apartment, all right? Now, can you imagine this? He bought an apartment at 65,000. He's staying or leasing or renting a place where he's paying 30,000. And that place where he bought the apartment, he actually needs to pay, I don't know, 5,000 Kenyan shillings for the service fee and whatever. For those who have apartments can understand what I'm talking about. So the guy gets 60,000. So the half of that amount he uses to rent where he lives. So the house rent has actually been covered because people usually fear to pay the rent. And then the extra 30,000, he channels that money towards an MMF each and every month. 30,000 go to MMF. 30,000, you can just imagine how much he has per year. Nah, I see now you're seeing the sense on that. So what do you lease? You lease that what you don't need it, you want it, or you lease, let me say, you lease that what you want. Also, you can lease that what you can't afford. You can't afford, but you need it. You need it. Don't lease that what you can afford and you want it. No, I said you lease that what you can't afford and you need it. You need it. So that you don't have this service fee that you're paying each and every month or whichever the period you're supposed to pay, and that thing is not even doing anything to you. You get what I'm saying? For example, I was giving an example. Let's say you want to do farming, okay? And according to your own mathematics, you need an approximately 30 acres of land. 30 acres of what? 30 acres of land. This 30 acres of land is what you need. But obviously, you cannot afford to buy 30 acres of land in where we are doing farming in Kenya, probably will cost you 2 million an acre. So you need like 60 million. You don't have the 60 million, but you need to do the farming. Now, what do? You lease. You lease the place. And sometimes you can lease while you can afford. Yeah, I know. You might think like I'm confusing. I'm not confusing you. You can lease when you cannot afford it and you need it. And you can as well lease when you can afford it. Instead of having yourself an overhead of buying 30 acres of land somewhere, and you're not actually looking at it from the retirement point of view, how about you go to an agreement with the owner of the property? You lease that land for the next 10 years. Maybe that will cost you approximately, I don't know, a million or two, whatever. And then after that, you can go ahead and do the water drilling, that the borehole. Maybe you sink the borehole with approximately of 1.5 million. And then from there, maybe you want to do some farming, onion farming, what the thing you want to farm in that particular place. In a period of 10 years, even if the guy, the owner of the property tells you, I want my property back, obviously after the lease has actually, or the agreement is actually over, even if you be like, I'm leaving behind a 1.5 million borehole, it's actually, you've recouped a lot of money out of that property. You get what I'm saying? So you lease that what you want, and you also lease that what you cannot afford but you need it, or you can actually lease that what you can afford but you don't want to commit all that money into that thing. Let's say, for example, it costs, let's say it costs like 60 million to do a project that you need. And then again, it costs 60 million to buy that acres of land that you. So what will be the smart thing to do? Do you go ahead and buy this property at 60 million? You're done. You've emptied your coffers, and then you go to a bank to borrow money, or maybe buying half, or maybe leasing the entire 30 acres of land. You get what I'm saying? So you have to understand, what am I supposed to lease? What am I supposed to buy? What am I supposed to do? That kind of a thing. So in that particular case scenario, so what you do, you lease that particular thing, and you go ahead and do that. Another thing that you lease that thing that you need now but not later. For example, let's say you want to go break a deal, and obviously where you are going, how you appear, and what you drive matters a lot. Do you now go break your bank and buy yourself a Mercedes-Benz E-Class? Because let's say even you can even afford it, but it means a lot. That money that you have in the bank, you have a different agenda of it. So you cannot just go buy yourself what do you call it? You cannot just go buy yourself a, whatever the thing it is, that car, so that you can go break that deal and get your 5 million back in your pocket, or 2 million or something or so. No, what you do, you lease. You go get that car, go to that particular place, and you're good. By the way, nowadays we have people who are leasing even their wives and their husbands. You know, back in your up country, you want to go for the holidays, especially we're about to go to the December holidays, and then you show up to that particular place, and they keep on asking you, where are you gonna get married? Eh? And then that question has bowled you for a long time, and then you'll be like, you know what, let me just break a deal with a certain lady somewhere, so decent, and you know, I'm gonna tell her to assume the role of the wife. And then you show up in the holiday, they'll say, hey, our brother, our sister is married, and all those kind of, because marriage in Africa is quite of a big deal, and I don't know why they usually make it so big deal in the sense, but anyway, it is what it is for those who view it. By the way, I don't know whether you know, in Africa is the only continent where people marry because they are old, not because they have a plan of it. It's quite unfortunate, yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. Now, so you understand what to lease and what to buy. Now let's go to the third one: what to finance. What do you finance? Well, finance and leasing might kind of appear as if they are brothers and sisters. They are so close, because leasing, and I want you to see the difference. What you lease, you've not borrowed, you've paid. You've paid, you've not borrowed. But when you finance, there is an involvement of a loan. Here there is no loan. Here there is a loan. So don't say, hey, I mean the same. No. So on the finance, what you finance, there is a loan existence. Let's take a case scenario. You need something. Let's say you need a tipper. You're in construction industry. You've gotten yourself a what? A tender. And this tender, need yourself to have like 2 tippers. You have one. You need an extra one. And this tipper, you may need it in future. Actually, you had a plan of acquisition of a tipper in future. It's only that right now, you really need it. You really, really need it. because if you don't have it, then you're going to lose the deal. It's not what you do. You can actually go ahead and get that tipper. And what happened? You now subscribe yourself to the payment, a monthly payment. I'm assuming it's a monthly or yearly, whatever the thing you guys do. See, you actually subscribe yourself to a monthly payment of that particular thing. But you only get yourself into a financing of a thing if the financial muscles allows you. When you've done yourself, you've audited. If it's a business that you're about to acquire a transport car or a logistic car, you've done what we call the audit. You've actually identified, I make a profit of 100,000 in this business of mine. I pay myself out of that 100,000, I get 60 out of it. So I'm only remaining with 40,000. Getting this tipper, I'm using tip as an example. I'm getting this tipper for 8 million. And then they're asking me 100,000 at the end of the month. And I can only sacrifice, I only have, quote unquote, disposable income of 40,000. Therefore, I cannot afford it. You may need to lease, or rather you may need to afford to finance, but you cannot afford it. It will break your coffers, it will break your bank. You get what I'm saying? So what to finance is a thing that you know is gonna make you money, that's gonna help you to pay back the loan. Because on the financing, we talk loan. It's a sweet name, it's a humble name of talking of a loan. Actually, I should have said what to borrow. But in the financial world, we don't say borrow, we say financing. Yeah, it's like when the military, they go for a war and then they realize they are losing the battle. So they don't run away. We don't say they ran. We say they tactically withdrew from the battlefield to go restructure themselves. So the thing is, to finance, you finance that you know that you need it now as much as you will need it in the future. So you can go ahead and finance it after actually checking all your finances that are in order. You finance, that is what is bringing you cash. That is what is making you money. You don't finance, quote unquote, a dead asset. And the problem that people usually do in Kenya is that you get your job. You see, people grew up with this mentality like, hey, once you get your job, boom, what do you do? As a man, you should get yourself a home. And the first step of getting yourself a home is to get the land first, because you cannot get a kid without before getting the pregnant. You get what I'm saying? Okay, assume the other sciences. Don't misquote me. Now, you go get a land, and what do? You use that salary that you're getting each and every month to go buy yourself a land, and then they are deducting that salary from or rather they're deducting that loan repayment from your salary, and now you're so good, and that land you've bought it somewhere, and then you're walking the midst of the wazes and you're feeling like I'm purchasing a land. But let me tell you one thing, that land is bringing you nothing, and that's the difference between a rich and poor. Buy something that is bringing in some cash. You even get that loan, get yourself some dairy farming, and you get what I'm saying? Yeah, I know I'm gonna take a lot of time before you guys accept what I tell you, but that's the reality. So I hope guys have shared with you what to buy, to lease, or finance. And once you understand these three terms, then you'll be knowing, this one for financing, this one is for buying, and this one is for leasing. And once you do that, guess what, guys? I usually come here to share these ideas with you, and I'm not a monopoly of all the ideas. That's why I always encourage you, comment on the comment section. Tell me, what is that alternative do you have? Did you understand this thing later? Or what is your view on this particular thing? And that way, we can be able to learn from each other, just like an iron sharpens another iron. And that is good just as speaking. For now, it's a goodbye and see you in the next one.